world, we like to think that we have it all figured out. You know, we have the answers and we have the technology that a bygone era, they were just kind of simpler and they didn't know what we know. But in doing what I do here at It's All His, I got to thinking about it. Are we better off financially because of the new technologies and the new tools that we have in our hands, or did our grandparents maybe have it figured out a long time ago? Now, I'm not anti-technology. I love the ease that it brings to our lives and the ease that it brings to building my budget every month. But I'm just not convinced that just because we have more of this advancement that we are actually better off, particularly when it comes to our finances. I'm Sarah. This is It's All His, where we talk about faith, finances, and being good stewards of everything that God has given us. If that sounds like something that would motivate you and encourage you, please click that subscribe button, hit that like button, all those good things that help the channel. Now let's dive into it. Habit number 1, paying cash versus the tap to pay. Now, I love it. I love that I can just have my phone in my hand and use that to pay for things or do it with my watch. Like, that is so nice and it is so easy. I also, as someone who used to do the cash envelope thing and pivoted away from that, I do appreciate not carrying around big wads of cash just for safety and security purposes. But the numbers don't lie. When we pay with cash, when we feel that pain of having to give the cash away, when we recognize that when the cash in the envelope is gone, it is gone, and we can't just keep swiping and tapping and clicking. And in fact, I saw a funny little meme on Instagram that I shared today. I will insert it here into the video if I can find it again. It wasn't until the 1970s that using a credit card was more mainstream and accepted. Up until that point, that just wasn't an option for everyday purchases. People had no choice but to use cash, maybe write the occasional check. Is anyone else old enough to remember being in the grocery store and standing in line behind the person who is writing a check for their groceries? The modern swipe tap, it's easy, it's nice, it's so convenient, but too easy, too convenient. The studies show you just spend more. In fact, as someone who switched away from the cash only model, and I've talked about this in previous videos, but we use a credit card that we pay off twice a month in full every single time, that we plan ahead and budget for, so the money is already sitting there. Even with that, it can be easy to have that occasional overage because you know you can do it. You can make up the difference somewhere. If you've got some cushion, it doesn't feel like you're overspending. So I get it. The stats don't lie. We are definitely spending more with plastic than we are with bills. It's just a fact. And if you're not, you're being very, very careful and very disciplined. It's possible, but it's not easy. Dealing with cash just makes you more mindful. It makes you feel the pain of what you're spending way more than swiping and tapping and clicking. So I think when it comes to saving more, being in less debt, and being a more mindful spender, the old school ways were definitely superior. Maybe not in convenience, but in everything else, especially stewardship. Let me know in the comments how we can bring that old school practice back with a modern twist. I'd love to hear from you. What are you doing to make it so that you're not just swiping away all of your income and going into debt? All right, habit number 2 is hand-me-downs, repairing our clothes, buying better quality. That's the old school habit versus fast fashion. All of the quick, super cheap, falls apart within the first season, chasing the trend type of fashion where you're throwing money away on things that just aren't going to last. In previous generations, they were super careful about the clothing that they bought. I love the pictures of my grandmother in just like beautiful traditional coats and sweaters and things that were just so classy and stood the test of time. And I know that she would mend and hem, and if she couldn't do it, a friend would do it. They would take really good care of their stuff. I would love to have more quality pieces and just less junk filling up my closet. Things that I'm gonna launder carefully, fix if needed, take really good care of. Doing a clothing swap with friends, getting hand-me-downs from relatives for yourself, your children. These are great ways to make the clothing stretch and save your budget. And I think you end up looking nicer. You might not have all of the trendy things, but that's so wasteful. You're just chasing trends constantly, and then next season they're gonna tell you that, oh, well, you need those same jeans, but the rise is like ever so slightly higher, or the crop is ever so slightly lower, or whatever. And you know, it's the same stuff, just tweaked enough to make you feel like you don't have the trendiest item anymore. And they know that that works on a lot of us. Our modern way is to replace things quickly with low quality items. And I would say hands down, the old school way of doing it wins here for sure. I think you're gonna look better. You're gonna have a less cluttered closet, and you're gonna save money in the long run. All right, habit number 3, home cooked meals versus the takeouts and the DoorDashes of the world, going out to eat all the time. We all know cooking at home is a huge money saver. We all know cooking at home is a way to cut calories and be more healthy. Old school meals were made with love, even when they were simple meals. But you could also get real fancy too. You could grow your cooking skills by doing this. So many perks to just cooking at home. But today we're so busy, we're running around constantly, our schedules are just cram full of things, and the modern convenience of takeout, drive-thrus, DoorDash, we fall back on it again and again. This is definitely hurting our bottom line and our health. I did a little research and found that the average American is spending $3,000 a year on some form of eating out or takeout. That's crazy. So I wanted to bust out my favorite handy dandy compound interest calculator because I am that kind of nerd. And we are gonna divide that $3,000 up into $250 a month. Let's just take that over 20 years. We'll put that interest rate at a very conservative 7% return, give or take 3. That's just averages adjusting for inflation. And we'll compound that annually. And you can see that over the course of 20 years, with no extra money added to it, that $3,000 a year comes out to over $100,000 of savings. Imagine what that could be doing in a Roth IRA. I cook at home most days out of the week, and I'm in a different season of life where my kids are older. Sometimes not everybody is home because of work or school. But when I do cook, sometimes I make things that are a little quicker, easy things. Last night, I whipped up some taquitos from the freezer with some guac and salsa, and we just had a quick finger food night because there were only 3 of us home. Other nights, it's something that's a little bit more involved, and I'm making a lot more mess in the kitchen, using more pots and pans. It can be simple, but it's still going to be cheaper and usually healthier if we're not eating out. That diligence in meal prep is an aspect of stewardship. We're just trying to do the best we can with what we've been given and make it stretch further. Now, I'm not saying you can never go out to eat or you can never DoorDash on a special occasion, but that was how our grandparents did it. Those types of things were special. You saved up and you went out to eat for a birthday or an anniversary. And it meant more. It was more fun because it was something you didn't do all the time. I think financially speaking, the old school way wins here for sure. And I can attest to how much money doing it that way has saved our family over the course of many years. All right, the next habit is saving up before buying something versus the instant gratification, buy now, pay later culture that we live in today. It is not even hard to do a buy now, pay later. It's built into every app you use. I can do it within my credit card. As I'm looking at the charge, the credit card company will help me break that up so I don't even have to pay it to them fully, let alone when the Instacart app or Amazon lets you do this kind of thing. Everyone is willing to let you break it up into smaller and smaller payments so that you are constantly buying everything on payments, even your groceries. But we all remember the old-fashioned days when you would see a store that had a layaway section and people would put away what they wanted for Christmas and go make little payments on it over time if they didn't have the money up front. Or maybe they just found what they wanted and they figured out what it costs and they put it into their budget and they saved up diligently over time and then went and purchased it for cash. No debt, no interest, not feeling that heavy weight of you literally own nothing because it's all being financed or on payments. Hands down, the old school way wins, not only for our financial security and the long-term money savings, but just for the peace of mind that comes from knowing I don't owe every single person every penny of this paycheck. I can actually keep it and do what I want to do with it, do what God wants me to do with it. What a great way to practice contentment with where you're at and not giving into instant gratification. 100% the old school way of saving up for what you want rather than just getting it quickly is going to be the winner. I really like this next habit because it wasn't really on my radar as I was thinking through this concept, but it makes a lot of sense. Our grandparents were those who shared with others. They borrowed. They went over and borrowed an egg. They borrowed a cup of sugar from their neighbors. Maybe a tool if you had something break on your car or you needed to deal with a tree that fell in your yard. But today, in our very individualistic culture and with things being so easy to purchase with just a tap, we don't want to do that. We don't want pridefully to be indebted to other people or maybe to show that we have a need. I really think this one is a big one for just our heart posture because we could save a lot of money if we'd be willing to just humble ourselves a little bit, go next door and ask if we could borrow that tool. It's okay. Your neighbor probably would love to give you that cup of sugar, and it's a way to make connections with your neighbors. They came from a time when they were less individualistic and community was stronger. And I think this extends to the church today. Let's not be so prideful to tell the other people in our church that we have a need. Put it out there. Let people know, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I could really use that. It's amazing how many people will rise up to help you. If they can't help you, they'll point you to somebody who can, And if they can't do any of that, they'll pray that you get the help that you need. It's a wonderful example of the community that I think that we're lacking in the world overall, at least here in the modern Western culture. Particularly when we're buying things that we really don't need. We're shelling out the money for something that then we use once, maybe twice, and then it sits in a box or out in the garage. Think of how well we could be saving and not contributing to all that consumerism and just stuff that's piling up in our houses if we were just willing to say, hey, can I borrow a hammer or whatever it is. Think of how much less stressed we'd be if we were not only in more quality community, but we also didn't have that financial stress that comes from thinking we have to bear all of the weight of these needs with our own pocketbooks. We'd be able to save money, be better stewards, bless others as we develop a culture of sharing and helping, and be blessed at the same time. When I would go visit my grandma in the summers, I would go down around the backyard and go down to her cousin who lived on the opposite side of the street, and I would borrow an egg or a cup of sugar. And in return, her husband would come up and help my grandma, who was a widow, fix her washing machine. Like, this was community that was just really sweet and beautiful. And I just think in a lot of situations, we're lacking that today. And it can be hurting us in a lot of ways, and financially is one of them. So yes, the old school community sharing, borrowing culture definitely wins. Now, I'm not about to give up my iPhone. I love my grocery pickups and my shopping apps. Convenience does not have to be equated with evil. But I think that it's important that we see that maybe there are things that we think we're better at because we have the knowledge or the tech that bygone eras didn't have, but maybe they actually had it right. And perhaps we'd be better off if we tried to find ways to emulate some of the things that people from our past were doing that were actually serving them better and might be hurting us today for our lack of. We all know that the technology is convenient and it's a time saver. I don't want to have to hand wash every dish or go beat my laundry out on a rock. I really, really love my Ember mug that is kept my coffee hot the whole time that I'm filming this video. Like, I can see the steam coming up. This is a great technology, but I just want to be mindful and encourage you to be mindful. How can we just bring back some of those things that would be better for us as community, as families, financially, and just help us to be better stewards of that which God has blessed us with. And to not be so prideful to think that the way we have things going now is better for us, because I think it's pretty clear that in a lot of ways, that's just not true. The goal is not to live like you're in 1950. The goal is to honor God with where He's put you, with what He's given you in the best ways that we can. And hopefully this video gave you some ideas of some changes you could make or some ways that you could tweak what you're doing. And if anything came to mind, let us know down in the comments, because I'd love to talk with you there. And if you want to go deeper, I've got a whole playlist about managing money to the glory of God. I'll put it right over here. Click into that next. I really think that you'll love it.